Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's Best Practices Navigating Uncharted Territory webinar. This is our partnership with NYAPT, and we're excited about a brand new year, and that's the topic of today. It's New Year, New Start, Transporting Students in 2022. We're going to just jump right in. We got a lot to talk about. We got some great panelists. I'm not going to give it away. I'll let our Executive Director, Dave Christopher, share information on that. But I just want to welcome everybody. So glad you're here to join us. Always excited about a new year. And we want to hear, what are your expectations? What are you seeing coming up this year? What challenges are you facing? Do you expect to take some new approaches to the year? So this webinar, the panelists we have, they're coming from New York, of course, as well as Texas and Minnesota. There's a distinction there. So we will have some expert insights from them. And I should remind everybody that you are also a participant. Just by number one, I thank you for joining us because I know time is very valuable and you're all very busy. So we will not waste your time. But I also want you to know that there's a way to ask questions, and anybody who's ever been attending any of these webinars, you'll know that we try to get to those questions and those shout outs as well, or whatever points you make, as quickly as possible. So as you're hearing things, I'm monitoring that, as well as Bridget Moore, who's running the back end of this. Thank you so much, Bridget. So put your questions there. So without further ado, and I also want to remind everybody, that these are always recorded. And so they will be posted on our homepage, transfinder.com, usually by tomorrow. And then they're on our YouTube channel for further review whenever you want to. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce our CEO, Transfinder CEO, Antonio Civitella. Tony, you got some exciting news for us.
Yes, I do. But Happy New Year. I mean, it seems like, today's the 20th of January. I mean,
I can't do that anymore. I'm done.
I think so. But, I want to say Happy New Year in one sense that we're kicking off the new year. This is our first webinar with our partner in NYAPT. So, Dave, thank you, of course. And obviously, I'll get that back to you. So, thank you again, of course. Our partnership and our friendship, getting closer and deeper. I love those things. And of course, these challenging times, I feel like we've gotten even closer together. I mean, I've taught some of you more now than I ever did. I mean, it's the same thing even with the company here at Transfinder. I feel like now that we're remote, I taught them more. We obviously do a lot of video conferencing. I get to know, I didn't know you have pets. And now, of course, sometimes some of the pets, you can hear them in the background. I mean, it's just the way it works. Some of the kids are popping in from the sides, oh, all right, well, these are things that it happens, But again, how do you get closer? I feel like we've gotten closer to really with these challenging times. As a group, we're collaborating together and we're always learning from each other. So I know we're gonna have tons of these things today with the panelists. We're gonna be having some great discussions, great takeaways, and of course, we always want to leave room for more discussions in the future, of course. But I want to talk about some things about what we're doing here. We are launching something brand new, and we're excited to actually do it with you guys. It's a new offshoot that we're doing. It's called Transfinder Informatics. We have a new product. It's called Form Finder. It's a product that is able to pull information, gather information, really. We're using it for ourselves, for our clients, to really get the fingers on the pulse of our clients. But we're now leveraging, and really thank you, Dave, to partner with us, that we're going to use that technology to really get the pulse of the industry. And what does that mean? As we ask questions, and we'll have some fun with it, and we'll have that. It's an opportunity for you to take your phone out. So if you take your phone out, there's a QR code there, and you probably are seeing these QR codes everywhere, especially if you go to a restaurant. So you see that, use your phone. Again, really simple. I'm sure you guys know how to do that. And if some of you are having some issues, please send us a message. We also can send you a link instead of, but get your phone out, get your camera, right? I think you guys know how that works. There's a bunch of questions there it'll probably take about 30 seconds. Again, it's not just a yes, no. We want to get more we want to hear more from you. And one of the things is you'll see is what type of topics you want to hear, us to talk about in the future. But there's a lot of cool things, a lot of great stats, and I'll share the stats, some really colorful charts that our system kicks out at the end. So again, if there's some questions, Bridget, if someone's asking some questions and if they can't do it with their phone, well, let's just if you guys need the actual link to that, it should have been in your invitation, but also we could send it to everybody if you guys need that. But have some fun. Obviously, we want to hear from you. Your opinion always matters, and these webinars are really created based on the feedback that some of you are on the phone right now, but it's really the industry, and we're here. We thank you again, Dave, for partnering with us to help you and really help the industry gather faster information. I look back what we did over a year and a half and how we all worked together, almost 2 years ago at this point, how we were able to quickly put these webinars together, get that information out, and just have some great back and forth. This new technology is instant. And I make these jokes when, yes, these webinars are recorded. You know how long it takes to watch a 60-minute webinar? 60 minutes. It does. The whole idea of getting this quick information that we could quickly just show you some graphs, see what people are saying, instant. So we're really going at a very fast speed. So again, get your phones out, get your, fill out a form, take some time in there. And again, at the end of the webinar, I'll give you the results. But now, let's get going. I want to thank you again to Dave Christopher, NYAPT Executive Director. Take it from here.
Hi, Tony, and thank you. Thank you for your partnership. It's hard to believe we're into another year. As you said, almost 2 years. Who would have guessed, 2 years ago that we've gone through what we've gone through. And it is great to be here. Happy New Year, everyone. And I think this year is going to be much better. I want to start out, Tony, by officially introducing my pet on the back wall in the picture, Rocky the Rottweiler. I don't think you knew that, but there he is back there, just so for the record. Again, this is a fun thing as well as an informational thing. So let's move forward and get some good people on the webinar here and talk about some industry stuff. So I want to start by introducing Keith Paulson, Transportation Director at Anoka-Hennepin, Minnesota. He said it's cold out there. Keith said it's cold. It's all coming this way. So next is Cody Cox. Cody is going to sign on a little later because he's in a meeting. And Cody's he's got a lot of energy. I hope he can get on this webinar today. And speaking of energy, we got Bill Harvey, a regular on our webinars, and Lorianne Savino, who's also been on many of our webinars. So these are all New York leaders and school transportation services, and we certainly appreciate that all of you had the opportunity to get on today and take some time and talk about some transportation issues. So I'm going to turn it over to Rick because he's going to kick this off, and then we'll get into the detail in a few minutes.
Thanks so much, David, and thanks. Welcome back, everybody. Again, it's just I'm so excited about what we had to discuss today. It's so important. Before I want to send it back over to Dave. Dave's got something that I think is very interesting to talk about. I want to have our panelists just quickly introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about their districts, maybe a little bit about the number of students you transport, something that kind of gives us a sense of your space. I'm going to go to Lorianne first, then Bill, and finally Keith. Lorianne, welcome back, by the way. Two panelists, 2 webinars in a row.
Yeah, what's up with that, Rick?
Bill Harvey, I think, maybe. I don't know.
He has me beat, don't you worry. Good morning to everyone. Yes, Lorianne Savino. I've been in the industry for under 30 years. That's what happens when you go over 25 years, right? I'm in Jericho over 10 years. We have just over 3,000 students that we transport. We are mostly contracted with some of our own in-district buses, so it's a little combination of both. What else do you need to know about me right now, Rick? That's about it.
That's a great snapshot. Thanks so much, Lorianne. How about you, Bill?
Hey, well, thanks to Transfinder and NYAPT for inviting me on again. I am like the Ed McMahon of these webinar series, so I almost feel a duty to be here. I'm about 38 years in the business, Director of Transportation and Security for our local district here, Honeoye Falls, Lima, where I grew up and went to school, as did my father and so on. So long history here, and moving about 2,400 kids a day, and it is a challenge with today's circumstances. So glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bill. And finally, Keith.
Thank you, Rick. My name is Keith Paulson. I'm with the Anoka-Hennepin School District. I'm in charge of transportation. I've been a transportation director for 38 years. 15 of them have been in this school district. I will say that this has got to be the most challenging year we've ever had. I thought last year was the most challenging year we've ever had, but no, this one is even more challenging. We transport 32,000 kiddos to and from school each day. We have about 320 buses, and we have about 300 drivers. We're short a few drivers. And that's the issue. I think there's going to be a survey coming up about what keeps you up at night. Maybe I've kind of given you a heads up on what keeps me up. But anyway, thank you. That's it.
Thanks so much, Keith. Okay, Dave, I'm going to turn it over to you. I want to just start, you want to talk about this this concept of a school bus driver specific CDL license. Tell me a little bit about it, and I think the panel wants to jump in on this as well.
Sure, thank you, Rick. Yeah, so as many of you know, the feds, FMCSA, just provided states with a waiver, an option to amend the CDL test for new driver candidates to eliminate or I guess not do the under the hood check. And many states have considered opting in and or not, and most, from what I understand, have opted out. Texas has opted in, and hopefully Cody will be on in a few minutes to talk about Texas experience. But the bigger question is, why did they do that? And I think, part of the reason is because there was input given by various associations and stakeholders to look at the CDL test in terms of, what it takes to get trained up and get ready to take the CDL test. And the thought is that some of the requirements of the CDL test for a B license driver, BPS, right, a school bus driver, include many things that not necessarily should apply to a school bus driver. And that brings us to the whole discussion of the school bus specific driver's license, a CDL specifically for school bus drivers that may not include some of those things that currently are required in the test. With the thought that if we do this, it may attract more drivers to the industry, certainly might reduce some of the training that needs to be done to qualify someone to become a school bus driver. And I wanted to bring that up today to just have a discussion with the panelists and get input from attendees to find out your thoughts on it. There's a lot of different discussions that have gone on here in New York from a lot of different stakeholders. And I think, in terms of the whole bus driver shortage issue, this is one piece of that to be discussed and maybe be advocated for one way or the other. I mean, there's people out there who are very strongly who feel we should do this, and others are like, no, we shouldn't go there. Well, we're good where we are. So I want to just frame up the discussion and then turn it loose here for the three of you and hopefully Cody in a minute if he's able to sign on. So I know, Bill, you and I have talked about this a lot. Maybe you could start the conversation because you're certainly up to speed on it. Bill is our legislative chair here with NYAPT, with our state association, so he's in on all these conversations, and maybe you'd want to start the conversation, Bill.
Sure, and kudos to Lorianne for convincing me to get into this legislative role. I have enjoyed it, and Mike Sweeney ended up getting me to do it, but the credit goes to you, Lorianne.
Thank you.
Yeah, my thoughts on first of all, the waiver from the FMCSA, I was not myself in favor. Our committee chose that we should do that. We should ask the FMCSA for a waiver on the ELDTs kicking in here in February. We did that as an association. We wrote letters and so did NYAPT and some other groups, the American Association of Superintendents. And what we got was, and this is what I've learned, and many times we have to be careful what we ask for, right? So what we got is a short-term, basically a 2-month waiver on the under the hood test, which probably the easier part of the test. And then the driver walks away with a restriction on the license, right? And in order to get that, they'd have to road test again in order to get that restriction off of there. So, I'm pleased that New York State DMV has opted not to take advantage of that waiver. I do appreciate the fact that the FMCSA tried to do something, pick something to help us shy of just suspending the whole effort. As far as the school bus only specific CDL, I really, I think that, that's a load maybe not worth carrying, to fight that through. I don't know that solves our problem. And that's what I oftentimes say to Dave is we spend a lot of time focusing on how to make the testing go better, easier, faster. It's like, I don't have a problem getting people through the test. I have a problem getting them to sit across the desk from me and say, I'd like to drive a school bus for you. Right? That's what I need to work on. And we need to work on image. When you think of school bus drivers, you think of Chris Farley and Billy Madison movie and, Ralph Cramden, right? Or Cramden and being a bus driver. So bus drivers, I think image, attracting people to the benefits of the job. And I don't know that it's worth chasing our tail around over a school bus specific CDL. I'm not positive what that gains us. So, and obviously that viewpoint varies, but that's my perspective.
What do you think, Lori Ann or Keith?
Oh, I have to agree with Bill. I mean, we spent a lot of time getting this new under the hood stuff all ironed out where it's working for us. Why would we backtrack only for a small window of time? I don't think that that's going to attract or open the floodgates to have new drivers come through the door. I think to Bill's point, we have to make the job more desirable for folks to want to fill the driver's seat. I think that's where we need to focus. And having a school bus specific license, I don't know how that's going to help us either, to be quite honest with you. I think we have to focus more on, the hours that they're working, the benefits, the pay. I think that's the stuff that's going to bring them in the door.
Keith, thoughts on it?
Yeah, so in Minnesota, I know that was one of the items that we discussed this summer. It had much more to do with the speed of getting people licensed to open school. That was it. And I come from a place where safety is number one in what we do. If it's not safe, it really doesn't matter for the rest of the stuff that we do. Yeah. The problem we've had now is that we've also been in a place where we don't have a driver to do a route. And so if it's a temporary piece, that's one thing, but I wouldn't want it to jeopardize the safety overall of the students that we have. We are the safest form of land transportation there is. You want to keep that standard high for our most precious cargo. So I wouldn't see a special license for driving a school bus, but if there's some things that we can do to streamline the process of getting a license, I think that would be great. And then also to just enhance being a school bus driver and what that's all about and the mission you have of bringing kids to school to help them to get to their future. I think that's the big thing we're trying to do.
Great. Well, we're going to go ahead.
One of the things that I hear in this.
Dave, before you go, let's launch the poll and then keep talking, okay, Dave? Because I just want to have you guys feed. We have a poll for you to weigh in on it. Go ahead, Dave. Keep going. I'm sorry.
One of the things that I hear is that if the school bus specific license were approved and it reduced some of the requirements of the test that weren't important to bus drivers, would it help you in your training in that it would reduce some of the training requirements that you have to put forth to qualify a driver? And of course, there's certainly for every action there's a reaction. So if you're reducing some of your training, can you focus on other kinds of training that are more important? or is this just a lot of discussion and a lot of thought being put into something where you're really not getting enough bang out of it to make it worth your while? So anybody want to react to that? Would that help you in your training piece?
I'm going to pick Bill.
So talking about like a lesser process, right, Dave? And I think the process, I'll go back to what Keith said. It's about safety. It's about the professionalism. And, I have some school teachers that, thank God I have them, because I'm telling you, they've been bailing me out lately, and they're going to bail me out today. But, these people have gone through what it takes to be a school teacher and the ongoing education and updates, certifications that they have to have. And they go through our training program and they get that CDL license and they go, oh my God, I had no idea, right? And that lends a degree of credibility or maybe significance to the work, right? Because a lot of times people see you pull in with a bus, they don't know what went into getting that license, how well trained you are, what you know about that vehicle, et cetera. So I think that I'm not, what do you trim off, right? You start trimming things off. You could trim off some, but you still need the maneuvering and the handling of the vehicle and having some basic general knowledge about how the vehicle functions and what, if you're going to look at that bus in the morning and decide whether or not it's okay to drive, you ought to know what you're looking at, right? So I'm not really opposed to that. I think that on the flip side, some people might feel that it makes us more vulnerable to losing our staff to, the other sectors of the CDL industry, right? Once they have that license for B, they can drive anything B. So, but I'm not a proponent. It might make it a little bit better, but if I shave 5 hours off of a 30-hour or 40-hour training course, at the end of the day, it's not a game changer for me. The interesting thing is that new people that come in, they have no idea what it takes to be a bus driver, the licensing. When I start running through, here's our path, here's the process. They don't know what they don't know. And then they're like, okay, well, you're going to walk me through it, right? Yep, we'll take you through it. All right, I'm good. Right? So if you make it easier, is that going to attract them? No, because they don't know what they're getting into to start with,
Absolutely.
Very good. Dave, you have deep thoughts there.
No, I'm listening. Certainly I have my own thoughts, but I'm an association director. I'm not sitting in your chair anymore, so it's important to hear what you have to say.
What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are that there's certainly valid points on both ends of this. I've heard from a lot of people, and certainly there are some who have limited training horsepower in their operation. If they can do anything to reduce their training, if they're happy about that, because they're the transportation supervisor, dispatcher, head mechanic, and trainer. So if they can take a shave off a little bit of training, they're happy because it's one less thing they have to train on. One of the things that I asked our DMV was, could you give me the rate of failure of under the hood pre-trip inspection? And they can't because they don't keep that data. But we all know that there is some high rates of failure associated with the pre-trip and some at some point. So I guess my thought is if it's something that can be done without creating a lot of bureaucracy, to Bill's point, for everything we ask for, there's always something that we didn't intend to get, and you have to be careful of that. So if we can do something to help out the operators who never leave the state, who maybe have limited training horsepower, who see value in this, maybe that's something that we should advocate for. To listen to some of my members will tell me, I have no problem getting people through training. They get through the training and they get a test. The problem is getting a test, and the problem is getting people in the door. And when I say, do you think the school bus specific license that's less onerous than the CDL would help? They say they have no idea what it entails to become a school bus driver, so I don't think it would help. On the other hand, some folks say if we limit the license to only school bus drivers, that hurts some of my people who have come on board and drive a school bus 4 or 5 hours a day and then go off and do something else 4 or 5 hours a day. So there's arguments both ways, as there always is in this industry, because we're a very diverse industry. People come to this industry for all kinds of different reasons. So I think the discussion is helpful. I'd be interested to see what the poll says. You know, it's something that I know is going to become a discussion that's going to increase in terms of its intensity, because there's advocacy groups out there who are talking about this. So I'm a little selfish. I'm doing this for my own selfish reasons to try to get a pulse of the industry and see where you folks are.
Well, Lisa, and then Bridget, you can bring up the poll results. I would like to have you walk us through it. I just want to read a quote from Lisa, who said, a school bus driver CDL specific license isn't the issue. Maybe it's a manual specific to school bus CDL that would be helpful. So thank you for that. So here's the response. Go ahead, Bridget. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. So 33%, 64% of everybody voted, and 33% answered yes, and 67% answered no to whether or not a school bus CDL specific license would help.
Great. Well, there you go, Dave. Thanks so much. So let's get into the.
I find it very interesting. I would have not guessed those results.
Okay. Yeah, I was a little surprised as well, as we were discussing this yesterday as well. I would have think that that number would be higher in support. You guys, everybody who again responds in the question area, I will get your comments out there too. We want you to be part of this discussion. So this is a broad question going now focused on 2022, and then I want to go over some specific questions. But what does 2022 look like for you? You know, I'm going to start with you, Keith, and Lorianne, and then Bill. I'm going to shake it up a little bit here. Well, just in general, how would you describe, you know, what you're kind of expecting for this year?
Well, in Minnesota, we're expecting it to be really cold, and then it's going to warm up.
When does it warm up?
And then it'll get cold again. So here's where we're at, is that I think what we've learned this last year really is the value of transportation in the school district setting. We provide access to kids' education. It's so important, especially when we've had driver shortages and when things just don't happen. This fall, we lost you.
Oops.
Keith, we lost you there for a sec. Still can't hear you. I'm going to go to Bill. We'll come back to you, Keith. Bill?
Yeah, thanks. And hopefully we get Keith's audio back here. But yeah, I think the 2022, I think kind of piggytailing on what the path Keith was going down, I think it's going to be kind of a transformational year. I think that there's been so much emphasis on the significance of the transportation operation and the staff and the driver shortage. I honestly feel that we have never had a better opportunity in the industry to achieve compensation rates that are more appropriate for the level of responsibility and professionalism that our people have. So I think, you know, I think that we're going to see some changes with respect to how transportation is viewed and the significance of it, maybe a better understanding. And I also think that we're going to see people begin to accept that this is the new norm. I can remember when our superintendent early on in the pandemic said, we aren't going back to normal, folks, that we will never have that back. And now it's like sinking in that you know, we're not going to, right? And it's, as he said earlier, it's getting harder, not easier, to operate here under the things that we've got with the Omicron virus and the spread of that. So I think that we're looking at adding air conditioning with enhanced air filtration, improving cabin air in our buses. We're looking at adding, you know, navigational software through our Transfinder routing program with Wayfinder. And the community is embracing this. It's almost like I expected a pushback. And they're like, no, we want you. We agree with you. We need to have better quality cabin air on the bus for our students and our drivers. So kind of a transformational year of growth, I think, for us.
That's great to hear, actually. Transformational, and it sounds like in a positive sense, even though I hate to think of new normal. I like to think of I used to add the word new temporary normal, but maybe I'm just an optimist that we can actually go back to that. But that's a good point, Bill. Keith, are we good?
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes. you're
Yay.
good.
I have no idea what happened there, but it was really good what you guys missed. But anyway, the value of transportation services and just having shortage of drivers. But moving forward, what we've done is, we've been through so many different plans, A, B, C, how to get kids to school. Last year, we were trying to have social distancing and fewer kids on buses. We have a driver shortage now, and we're trying to maximize the use of a bus. And so what we've been doing is trying to hire more drivers or more bus companies, or reduce the demand we have for services. So we've been actually condensing and combining some routes this year. We did some last week. We're going to do some more this week, just to maximize the use of what our drivers are doing and combine and condense. And we're also going to take a real good look at next year's routes to kind of pull things apart and review and make sure we're maximizing every seat in every bus that we have, because we just know that this driver shortage isn't going to be going away. Another piece that we're looking at is just trying to get our head and arms around is the opt-in kind of process, especially for high school students and maybe some of our non-public students, to find out who's really needing a ride. We kind of predict every year who's going to ride. And when we take load counts and we find out we've got fewer students. So we're going to be looking at how we can put together a process to poll our parents to find out who's going to really use the bus so that we can really streamline even the routes that we put together. So those are just a couple of things we're working on.
That is great. Thanks so much, Keith.
Can I just add something to that, Rick?
Yes, please.
To the panel. So the opt-in piece, I think, is important. However, in New York, parents are going to tell you, yeah, I want to ride because I may show up next week. I'm wondering if we move to those card reader systems where you track kids every day when they get on the bus, very specific information, because that gives you day-to-day data, so you can make decisions versus standing at the bus port every day and counting kids, right? I wonder if that's in the future. And I'm not advocating for that, but I'm saying, is that something that would help?
Lorianne.
That's definitely something that we're looking at in Jericho. And we feel like it would take the ownership off of the drivers in doing attendance, record keeping. That's become very cumbersome for them. So if we could take that off their plate, that would be really helpful. I'd love to sell, the opt-in idea, but my district is just not biting into that yet, because we do offer universal busing. So a parent would never say to me, no, I don't want the bus. They always want it there just in case. Which would kind of muddy my water a little bit. Like you, Keith, when we were coming off of the holiday break, we had gotten a Mayday call from our contractor that we were anticipating a larger than usual driver shortage. So my team and I came in and we did exactly what you're talking about. Instead of minimizing ridership, we went back to our routes to maximize ridership. So that was a couple of day process, but we were able to identify some routes that we could combine and, not to exceed the 66, obviously 3 kids to a seat or a half-hour ride time. So I think the future holds for us that we have to be like chameleons, right? We have to be able to adjust and adapt in the blink of an eye. And I think we've been through some of it. I don't think I can anticipate what's going to be different in the coming year, but I think that we're more prepared or maybe more steady in being able to handle those what if scenarios. And I need you to make it happen, and I need it to happen now. I mean, we're getting pretty good with adapting quickly, I think.
You're what do you call it? You've weathered these storms. You're battle. I don't know what that expression is, but
Battle hardened.
Battle hardened. So that's awesome. Back in May of 2021, we're talking a lot about surveys today. School Transportation News surveyed their readers, which is many of you and our attendees here. And the question was top 5 pain points. And I think you guys these things still seem relevant today. And here it is 8 months later. One was COVID-related issues was number 1, 72%. Number 2 was staffing issues, which I think can be related to COVID, but obviously not just COVID, was number 2 with 66%. Funding constraints was number 3 at 57%. Number 4, school bus utilization. We have heard of this discussion already with 23%, and close behind was planning transportation for each student at 22%. So I think, does that still seem like that resonates for 2022?
Mhm.
They're shaking their heads. So what I wanted to know from you is, we talked about the driver shortage, and by the way, I just saw a story, recent story. Guilford County Schools in North Carolina is now asking parents to drive their kids to school. I know that some states there's rules about that, or in some states I think parents have to pay for the privilege of driving their children to school. Has that been a discussion? Dave, I'm going to go to you first. Are you hearing discussions of, as some schools have had to actually not have education for a certain day because of a driver shortage, to talk about encouraging?
Yeah, I think it's happening all over the place, and sometimes we don't even hear about it because it's become so prominent that, yeah, the schools are going to remote learning because of driver shortages. And, the other thing they're doing is they're sending out notifications to parents. Bus route number XXY will not run today because of a lack of drivers. That was unheard of, years ago. To your point about parents driving, that's being done because there's no choice. And other types of transportation are being used across the country. And, those of us in the industry, we're very concerned about that, because where does a child belong? Safest place for a child to drive, as Keith said, to ride it to and from schools on a school bus, 70 times safer than any other form of transportation. So we do have to figure this out for the safety of kids. We want them on school buses. We don't want them walking. We don't want them riding in private cars with brothers and sisters, because they're not safe. To the walking point, people say, well, they should walk to school because it's healthy. But in many of our school districts, to the point right here in Albany, they just expanded the child safety zone law so that more kids could ride a bus, because they don't want kids walking through cities that are high in crime rates and abandoned buildings. So, and that's certainly understandable. So,
frankly, to be honest with you, not all the sidewalks are shoveled.
Sidewalks are shoveled, exactly. So there's a lot of reasons why kids should not be finding other forms of transportation to school. And it's a problem that we have to solve. And I'm kind of encouraged. I mean, to Bill's point, I think we are in a transformational era. But some of the things that I hear, more respect and more value to the school bus driving industry. What do we need to do to fix it? And I'm hearing things like improved air quality and more technology to help manage. Those are all good things that 10 years from now we're probably going to look back and say, wow, we did it. We did what we needed to do to get this moving along again.
Anybody else want to weigh in on that? Thanks, Dave. Anybody else want to weigh in?
I don't know if I want to weigh in, but I just want to share with you, one of my biggest challenges right now is they put me on the traffic committee here in my district, because parents and students are so accustomed to driving, right? The parents are bringing the kids in and picking them up, that the traffic on my school property is ridiculous. And I'm red-faced each time I'm on these calls, because I just want them to put their kids back on the bus. And they're just, they've adapted, they've adjusted. So, that's a big challenge for me, is to get my kids back on the bus. I'm ready for them. It's just getting the parents and the kids to be ready to come back.
Rick, I think earlier you were talking about how some bus companies or school districts are telling the parents that there's no buses. That's happened around here, and I know there's one of school districts in the Twin Cities posted on their website, these are the 5 routes that won't be running next week. Or this is, a neighboring district sends out a voicemail, this route isn't going this week. And it's just, this is what we do. This is what we do, right? It's not the parents that do that. And it's just been so hard, because when you don't have the drivers, you don't have the drivers. And then just to try and determine how we're going to make it all fit. And so that's why more drivers, less demand, how do we make that work? It's been very, very challenging. And to Lorianne's point about traffic around school, we've been invited out to a few places as well. Part of it, I think, is parents still feel that they want their children to be socially distant. And the way they can do that is put them in the car and take them to school until they feel that the Omicron or whatever next variant that's out there, it slows down. So it's going to be a challenge, I think, until this COVID thing slows down for sure.
We posted an item on, Bill, go ahead. You look like you're going to say something. You're mute.
Muted.
So that's what it looks like.
Sorry about that. I think the other thing that plays into that is the masking. You know, we've got routes that are, 45, 50 minutes long. And quite honestly, a lot of the parents, I think they know the kids have to mask to be in school. That's New York State law. But it saves an hour and a half or an hour and 20 minutes of mask wearing for the kids. And it makes a difference. And I talked to Dave a year or better ago about my concern with parents like just becoming the new norm, right? We have taken a back seat in our district to the parents. So we let the parents go in, we dismiss all the parent pickups at our elementary schools first. And then when the parents are clear, we come in and get our kids. It actually worked out very well. It's a much more efficient loading. And all we're doing is picking up what's left, right? So they already know that the parents are picking them up. So, there's a silver lining to that cloud. But the point is, we used to get right in, load up and go. And now we stage somewhere else and stay out of the way, let all our parent traffic get through. And then, I'm over there and I'll call the bus and say, okay, you're clear to head over here, right? So, but how do we ever get that back when I have hundreds of parents, in a small, if I get, whatever, say 30, 35% of the parents drive their kids to school.
Mhm.
How many of those are we going to get back, and then if that becomes the norm, now it can't be in every community. I mean, we happen to be fortunate enough in our community that our parents can do that, but I do worry about that. I worry about where that leaves us and people becoming too comfortable with that being the new norm, right? Where mom and dad drive.
Right. No, that's a good point.
Bill, to that point, I think, as a result of the pandemic, the society has changed too. The typical jobs that we saw in the past, many people, we were recently at a conference, 28 million people have left their jobs voluntarily for other types of jobs because they no longer want to do the corporate kind of job. So we may always see parents bringing kids into school because they have more flexibility. But my sense is you'll see that in the suburban communities, more affluent communities, whereas, kids in areas that don't have other options are the ones that are going to be hurt the most if school transportation service is not available to them. And that's the sad part of this. We have to find a solution to this for those kids as well, because some kids don't have other options to get to and from school.
So sticking with the topic of parents, I guess specifically, remember like right after COVID hit and, March of 2020, and I heard this through many of you panelists that we had, there was a sense that just like after 9/11, there's no more road rage for maybe a day or two. We were all Americans. Remember that? There was a nice little snapshot. Well, I heard from a lot of people that, there's a lot of forgiveness from parents, a lot of understanding, and there was just a lot of leeway because we understood we were all kind of in this together. We're all trying to navigate this. Are you still finding that in your communities that there's Bill, you're nodding your head, so I'll let you just jump in, and anybody else, just what is the sense from the pulse that you're getting from your communities about changes, adapting, to, constant changes? Go ahead, Bill.
It's really been very positive. Our parents, we had that honeymoon phase where like we're all in this together and everybody's supporting everybody and you guys are awesome, even if we don't use it. And that level of appreciation is still there. It's a very good situation between even the parent drivers, but the parents out there, they seem to really get it, that they know because they're seeing on the news that they're happy that the bus is just showing up, right? They're because they know there's neighboring districts that are on the news because they're having no instruction for a couple of days because they're not able to staff their school buses. So yeah, it's been great. The relationships have probably been better than ever, I think, between the parents and the district and transportation.
Which goes to Tony's point in his intro, was this idea that in some respects, some relationships really deepen as a result. Maybe it's with your staff, your drivers, and your community. So that's good to hear. Keith and Lorianne, is that your experience as well? No. Lorianne, go ahead.
No, I am very customer driven here. Like customer service is so important. They might have been a little bit understanding maybe the first 2 weeks of school, but that died down very quickly. They have responsibilities of their own. They need the bus. They need the bus on time. They need a consistent driver. You know, if a spare driver shows up, they're upset that it's a spare driver. So, you know, that continues to be a challenge for me. After I spend time, of course, explaining the situation and the reality of it all, you know, I might get a couple more days out of them, but not as understanding as kumbaya as Bill is experiencing.
So maybe Bill and Lorianne, you guys can swap notes, and Bill, you can give us, you know, how you get to that kumbaya level. Keith, how about you?
Yeah, so we have had some, we've had parents call to be concerned about the bus route, the bus time, but they also understand. And I think what some of the other people have said here, they're grateful to have a bus, and they say, I know, I get it, I understand, but they want to know about their specific stop, their specific situation as well. But I think overall, it's, you know, parents, I think, are understanding because they see it everywhere. They see it at the limited time they can get their haircut or limited hours at a restaurant. And, you know, if the bus is on time, boy, that's really good. Or if it's just a little bit late, that's really good. They still get the service and the kiddos still get to go home. We've got one parent that works in our building here, and we've been sending a late bus notice out to that parent, and she loves it because she gets an extra time by herself before her child gets home. So that's the other side of this, is that there's more me time.
True. Okay, I got one quick rapid fire question, because then I'm going to bring Tony back on to get the poll results from the earlier poll. Lots of polls. And then I want to have you guys give our final takeaway. But just a quick thought. I think Keith brought it up earlier. Again, going back to how things have kind of evolved, are you feeling your district leadership is continuing to seek your input now on district-wide decisions that may impact transportation? That whole seat at the table, and just how is that? Are you seeing that? And if not, are you doing something to try to remedy it? I'm going to start with Lorianne and go to Bill and then Keith again.
I've really never had a problem with that. I've always had a seat at the table. I've always been the face to my department. I have outstanding support from all the other department heads. The school administration have always been wonderful, great supporters. I do my driver meetings. They all show up to show their support to the drivers. So I've really never had an issue with that. They definitely do recognize what a difficult year we've had. They certainly have done that. So yeah, I've been lucky with that.
Bill, I know you've had that as well, but maybe for someone that doesn't have it, if you also have some, you know, advice on how to improve that, you know, communication. No, Lorianne, go ahead. I mean, if you don't have it,
I'm going to say you have to show up, right? You have to show up, even if you're not invited. You know, I pushed my way into a meeting or two.
That's great. I love that. I love that. Bill?
We've maintained a seat at the table. I would say the transformation for us has been that we always had a strong seat at the table at the central district level, and I would say our position has improved district wide, and by that I don't mean I'm sitting at the head of the table, but I am at the right hand of the father, right? So now we have all the principals. There'll be field trips, and they're like it's up to transportation, contact, you know, Bill Harvey or contact Paula. It's like we have got a stronger voice at the table with all of the school buildings, and I think that's something that they've been so supportive. It's unbelievable. So I think that where maybe they just took it for granted what we did before, they don't take it for granted anymore.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree. We've had a seat at the table, and I think through the process that we've been through the last few years here now, I think people are reaching out to us much more about if they've got a big trip event or something like taking a group down to Orchestra Hall or things like that. They're reaching out ahead of time to say, can we do this, instead of, well, I ordered this 3 months ago. You should have planned for it. So I think it's turned it around a little bit. I know we've had some shout outs from the superintendent as well at a few board meetings, just hearing about some of the trials and tribulations other school districts have had and how much they appreciate our department. And and it really is an entire team event and team process to do that. I think one thing too is that we've had some turnover in personnel, and so part of it is going out and reaching out to new personnel that might be in the administration offices, is to introduce yourself and just to talk to them about what you do and how you want to be able to help them, and just work with them so that when they have things that come up, you've already got a relationship going with them.
Yeah, Rick, I wanted just to add, it's really helpful for you to have a good relationship with your athletics department. That's something we strengthened this year. Instead of saying that a particular bus is running late, we actually talk about what team can be transported at a later time than another team so that nobody's missing their games or their meets. That we strengthened that relationship a lot over the year and a half.
That's a great point, Lorianne, and we did the same thing. Like if they need 5 buses and I can only give them 4, Paula calls over there and goes, "We're short 1. You tell me what is the least impact to you, what can wait and go after 4." So there's been great teamwork there.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to ask Tony to come back on. I know we're all wanting to know, what do the people want us to be talking about in future webinars? Tony, welcome back.
Hey, everybody. Great topic. Great topics. Really can't wait for you to see this. Let me change presenter to the meeting.
Again, I should make a big deal about this, that this is the first really use publicly of Transfinder informatics polling. So Tony, take it away.
So here is, I'm going to share my screen. So do you see my screen?
Not yet. There we go.
Okay, great.
I see,
So you see a pie chart, a really nice pie chart.
one side, but I still see your slide as well.
You still see my slide too? Okay, so that's not what I wanted to share.
Didn't think so.
Right. I am the presenter. Good. And I just show.
We lost Keith.
Okay.
I'm out of here.
He's here.
Okay.
He's here. He just blinked the screen.
Oh, no. Do you
There
see
you go.
that?
We're good. Perfect, Tony.
Thank you, guys. All right. So, wow. I got to tell you, we had a couple of you already filled it out, but majority of you did it today, of course. And I tell you, staff morale really was the highest.
That's on my list of questions I didn't get to. Go ahead, Tony.
I mean, if you think about it, these are all recruitment, communication, driver shortage, staff morale. It's all about the staff. I think you guys know what topics you want to talk about next time here. I got to just bring one thing up here, the budgetary issue. I remember, Lorianne and all of you guys will remember in 2008, 2009, as we're all having conversation about budget, you guys were freaking out because, there was, that was a great recession. As we know what happened at that point, what happened then, that was number one. Budgetary is the least important. Again, I only took a certain top. Some of you are talking about technology. So that's something I want to share. So again, really cool. I got also a couple things I want to bring up. What's keeping some of you up at night? Obviously, job shortage, no question about it. It's all about that. Technology. Some of you are talking about technology. You're worried about technology. Are you going to choose the right one? Those are a good one. So again, based on that pie chart there, you guys want to talk about technology. So I think it makes sense. But then also some personal things. You are wondering about what happens if the school shuts down again. Then what? What's going to happen at that point? Those are a good thing. And I think someone also said, why is there such a black cloud of shame on being a bus driver? So that's a good one. And I do have to bring up, because those are all personal things. We talk about business all the time. People do worry about their personal stuff. Someone said that they're concerned about their 18-year-old college daughter that's 750 miles away. That does happen. We all, we talk business all the time, but we do have other things going on. Our life is still there. And so there's a lot of things that keeping all of you up at night. But clearly, number one is the driver shortage is what's freaking everybody out. And I get it. Let me tell you, as a technology company, we've always had an issue finding qualified technology people. And I think many of you had to have this conversation like, hey, can you build me product faster? Can you give better, more service people? And those have been our struggle and our frustrations for many years. We had to just pivot multiple times. It didn't happen overnight. So just be patient, learn from one another, because I know for a fact, over 10 years, we've had our own issues of finding technology people. So we've had to do tons of very creative thinking there. So
very good. Thank you so much, Tony. That's awesome stuff. That is awesome stuff. All right, we're going to go to a rapid fire round. And really what this is that one takeaway that you want to, you want the attendees to have, whether it's going back to their office and sharing it with their team, whether it's going to their district leadership and sharing with them, or maybe it's communicating with their community. So rapid fire. So I'm going to start with Dave Christopher, so he does not have to follow Bill Harvey, which is very intimidating.
Thank you, Rick. I appreciate that. I'm going to grab Bill's thunder because he said something profound, transformational growth. I think that's absolutely what we've just talked about. And quite honestly, I'm kind of excited to see what comes out of this, in terms of, the driver piece, different technologies, communications was on the pie chart there, which is huge. Come to the winter workshop. Lorianne Savino's doing a workshop on communications for transportation department. So I invite everybody to be there. It's exciting times. It's scary times, but I think it's also exciting to see where we go.
That's, and I think that makes everybody, one of the things, Dave, when we put these webinars together, right? And when last year, when you guys were so, we were just so honored to win the President's Award, it was the idea of how we encourage each other. We hope everybody gets at least 1 or 2 or 3 great ideas as well, which I think there were a lot. But the other thing is just seeing you guys and hearing your optimism and knowing that we're all in this together. Okay, rapid fire, Bill, Lorianne, and Keith, and then Tony, close us out, and then I'll just say a couple parting words.
All right, I would say a key takeaway for me is how we're best positioned to face new challenges. And Lorianne hit on that, and I hope I'm not stealing her thunder, but if you look at what we've been through in the last couple of years, we went from, shutdowns, complete shutdowns, to partial running, delivering food, going to A days, B days, then back to full, and it's just been unbelievable. And it's like Lorianne said, it's like, you can't throw anything at us now that rattles us, right? We've done it all. It's unbelievable. So, yeah.
Very good. That's awesome. I like to keep moving down the line. So Lorianne's going to steal Paul's thunder, and then Paul will steal Tony's thunder, and Tony will come up with his own thunder. Go ahead, Lorianne.
My biggest takeaway is stay connected, right? I mean, communication is the key. I saw on that survey, staff morale, that was a big one for me. If we're having a hard time getting out of bed in the morning, just imagine how they're all feeling. So I would say stay connected, communicate with everybody.
You cannot over communicate, and I couldn't agree with you more, Lorianne. Keith.
Thank you. So the biggest thing, and I would say, is what we've learned over the years is using technology for transportation professionals to get together. We used to have meetings in person and people would have drive times, and now we have meetings. We, like you in New York, we have monthly meetings with our colleagues in the state and talking about and working through whatever problem that's presented to us. So working together as a team, because we've been through so many issues and we've kind of solved them together, from A/B days to what does a seating chart look like, to all the different things. How do you guys clean your buses? How do you sanitize your buses? What are you doing about keeping air flowing, different things like that. So I think really networking and being able to reach out to fellow colleagues, because unlike if you're working in a school district where there might be a fellow principal or a fellow somebody, you need to reach out outside of your school district to reach out to fellow transportation professionals to meet the needs. But we can do it when we work it together.
That is great. Good stuff here. Tony, last thoughts?
I love it because you've all heard me talk about these 3 letters, FIO, figure it out. We've all had to figure this out. And listen, this driver shortage is not going to go away, but we're all dedicated, including Transfinder. We're going to all figure it out together. And like we figured everything else out in the past 2 years, we'll figure this one out too.
That's great. Thank you.
Good
I
one.
want to thank our panelists, Lorianne, Keith, and Bill. We will bring Cody in. When he said he couldn't make it, he was going to be here with us last month, and then when something came up, he's like, "You're going to kill me." I'm like, "No." I think he said, "Welcome to my world," too. So I know you guys all can understand that. So we'll get him on, I promise. Because Dave already quoted him multiple times, earlier. So we will get him on, I promise. But I want to thank the panelists. You guys we always learn something from you. Dave, again, Tony already mentioned it, but your leadership and partnership in these webinar series, we cannot thank you enough for those. And you are cool as a cucumber in the midst of the storm, I got to say. A reminder, we are looking for new panelists. I'm going to talk to Tony right after this webinar because I know that was one of the survey questions. I'm hoping we got some people saying at least maybe, and then I'm going to call you. So if I got a maybe, I'm calling you. But just a reminder that be on the lookout for our next webinar. Before I get to that, sorry, Bridget, it's all my fault. If you have a story, we would love you to email us at mystory@transfinder.com. That might become a webinar. It could be a webinar topic. It could become a white paper. It definitely would be something on social media. So please share. It can be a paragraph. Just send me a quick paragraph. And we want to always share best practices because we all learn from each other. Okay, next slide. Sorry, Bridget. Our next webinar, February 17th, 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. So please mark your calendars. You'll be hearing a lot more about it as we get closer to that date. But until then, I just want to thank everybody for joining us today. Hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.